everyone, and welcome to the Climate Career Kit podcast. This is your host, Wei Xun He. If you are a high schooler looking for direction in climate change related careers, tune in to every episode for advice from the diverse leaders in climate jobs today and learn about new and exciting opportunities that you can pursue. Today's guest is Wei, a mechanical engineer at Bevy. We are so excited to have you for the 13th episode of the Climate Career Kit. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
To start us off, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, of course. So during the day, I work at a startup called Bevy, where I built a machine that makes sparkling water. Yeah, and the point of the machine is to eliminate single-use packaging and just improve the efficiency with the bottle industry. And at night, I am currently building resources for hands-on engineers to find high-paying career opportunities at climate startups like myself. Um, and and it's focused on anybody who wants to build physical things like mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, civil engineering, chemical engineer, you name it. Um,
Wow, that's very impressive. So with all that you do, what does like a day-to-day look like for you?
yeah, sure. So during the day, when I go into the office, I think my day will range between designing 3D models on the computer using tools like SolidWorks. And then once the design gets to good enough spot, then prototype it in the most appropriate way that meets our schedule and budget constraints. Sometimes that means like 3D printing something in the shop. Other times that means outsourcing it to a more professional prototyping shop to kind of make something that's higher fidelity. And then once we have this prototype, then we test it in lab, make sure it does how we designed it. And then you just repeat this process until you build confidence in the design. Um, and yeah, and once you do this enough times and you are confident enough, then you send this out to a factory that's capable of producing these parts at a higher volume. And that way you can make hundreds and thousands of these parts and bring it to market.
Wow. So I know that you touched on this a little bit before, but you work as a mechanical engineer. So how does your job specifically intersect with climate?
That's a great question. At the moment, I work for a company called Bevy. And when you go to a school party, go to the convenience store, or you go to a tech office, because that's where you work, many times you'll find bottles of beverages at a lot of these places, offer as an amenity. Um, at the end of the day, people love drinking beverages, whether it's a soda or sparkling water or a juice. And the problem with the current way that we consume these beverages is that the majority of these beverages are bottled into single-use packaging at a centralized bottling plant that is trucked all over the country via something like a diesel truck to a location near you. So, and when you're done drinking this beverage, this packaging will most likely end up in a landfill, taking up valuable space and also taking more than like hundreds and thousands of years to degrade. So that's a very linear way of consumption, and at the scale at which like humanity is kind of like consuming things, like that's not sustainable. So at Bevy, we're building a machine that takes the drinking water at the point of use. So for you, if you have a Bevy at California, it would take the drinking water where you are, combine it with flavor concentrates, carbonation, heating and cooling, depending on how you prefer it, and create a fun and tasty drink that people like at the point of use. This removes the need for trucking water across the country and also gets rid of single-use packaging.
Wow. That's incredibly useful, honestly. In this day and age, we really need less single-use items. So I and many other high schoolers are inspired to pursue a job in climate. So what inspired you specifically to pursue a career in mechanical engineering?
Yeah, of course. So to be honest, I personally didn't learn about mechanical engineering until it was like the senior year of high school. Um, I knew that I wanted to pursue something in the engineering field because I had a couple of high school teachers who used to work as engineers, and they would tell me stories of spending time on the oil rig, solving problems, and just building really cool stuff and getting paid well. So that's how I knew I wanted to do some sort of engineering. And when I looked at all the different varieties of engineering, um, I really like the idea of working with my hands and building physical things that people use in their daily lives. So that's why so far in my career, I've like mostly worked on uh, products that are consumer facing. So that's things that like you will use in your home, in your office, that people touch. But there's like I seen it like there's a lot more other varieties of mechanical engineering, and all of them are important. As you can see in like different climate solutions, some of which you interact with, but the majority of which are actually stuff that like happens in the back end that you don't that the normal person doesn't see. But it's incredibly important to keep the infrastructure running. Think things like building size batteries, solar panels, like electric grid. Like these things aren't things that like people think about all the time, and a lot of people take it for granted. But you need all kinds of engineering to work together to make these things work.
Yeah, of course. So, in your job as a mechanical engineer, what experiences were helpful to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the experiences that were most helpful to me really come back to just building stuff for whether it's for fun or for class projects. So far in my career, I think the stuff that I've most enjoyed building include a robotic bartender, an interactive escape room experience, um, and glasses that like eyeglasses that detect blinks that help ALS patients better control their indoor appliances. Um, and other things that are more on the fun side, like yo-yos, games. I took a glass blowing class where I got to learn the craft of glass blowing. Not that I do that for a living now, but just using my hand to just make physical things in all kinds of different ways, and learning how to learning the materials required, the techniques, the processes, how to do it, um, you know, like at a low volume, and also how to do it at a high volume. Um, so just working on like physical, like just putting physical things of any sort, it's great experiences, and it's what helps me build stuff at my day job today.
Yeah, of course. So, what advice do you have for someone considering a career in mechanical engineering, like specifically relating to climate?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I think this will relate to what I just talked about regarding building projects, which is kind of using the resources that you currently have access to build the most impactful thing that you can. This could be a robot if you see a need to automate a task that someone is struggling to do, or it can be a job board if you happen to know a lot of people that are looking for certain types of jobs and they're struggling with it, and you have experience doing it and you know where these jobs are. Um, and just kind of using whatever resources you have and to just build whatever that impactful project is. You're going to learn a lot along the way. You're also going to meet a lot of cool people, and you're going to prepare yourself for building the next most interesting thing. And it's yeah, so it's kind of one step at a time, and um, yeah, and you'll
Yeah,
continue on this trajectory of building cool things.
of course. So, kind of going off of that question, are there any resources or opportunities that you know of that you can direct high schoolers to who are interested in your line of work?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are a couple I can think of. Um, I think the I think the first one that I'll mention is this thing that I'm building right now in my spare time. That's called Climate and Hand Database. Basically, what this is it started off as a master database for for climate companies that are building physical products. And this is interesting for three reasons. Right now, like the job search takes up to 6 months for the typical job seeker, and this process costs employers also a similar amount of time and thousands of dollars to find this candidate. And at the same time, if you scour the internet and look for openings in climate companies that are building physical things, there's a huge demand from these companies to hire hands-on engineers from different backgrounds: mechanical, electrical, civil, chemical, materials, you name it. And but the problem is there's a shortage of people applying to these roles. So if you're in high school right now, like this would be a really good time to just like check out these jobs that are available, look at what they're paying, where they are, what the jobs are like, and also the problem that the companies are solving and the specific way that you will be helping the company solve that problem. Um, I think I think there's nothing that like beats a job description that's exciting, you know. And you don't need to wait till you have an engineering degree at hand to read these job descriptions and prepare. I think if you look at it now, you can only um, be more prepared, and it can also give you an idea of whether if um, this line of work is something that would excite you, that you might be good at. Um, but yeah, but at a high level, that's that's like one of the top things I would recommend. Um, and then I kind of mentioned this a little earlier, but Work on Climate, it's a really cool online community of just all kinds of helpful people from diverse backgrounds. And that's a good place to just ask questions, meet with others, and yeah, and just learn from others. And the last thing is similar to what I mentioned earlier, but it's called Terra.do. Um, they do online career fairs and also have a pretty good job board. So that's a good place to learn about different career opportunities as well.
Yeah, these are all really, really great resources, and I will be linking them on my website right next to this episode. So go check them out. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And to all the listeners, make sure to tune in to the next episode of the Climate Career Kit.